What is up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie livestream. My name's Luis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And if it's your first time here, welcome. Please introduce yourself into the chat so you can get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And as tradition goes around here, the first thing that we always do is to go ahead and check to see who are the first members of the crew in chat. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, we're here at our comments screen, and right off the bat, we got Parker Jennings. If it comes up, there we go, saying hello to everyone. We also got Sammy Superstar in the house saying the same exact thing. Yolanda's here saying hello, hello. Kevin Cox in the house saying hello to everyone. Mr. Moderator Paul Duncan in the house giving greetings. Mr. Jarrell Peak, as always, thank you for hanging out, saying what's up to me. And I'm guessing extending it to the crew as well. Kevin, as always, reminding me to remind you to hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button. It's absolutely free. And you know what else is free? A subscription to this channel. And the reason why I bring this up is because we just recently passed the 2,000 subscriber mark. Let me make sure I'm doing the right one. Let's go. Air horns in the house for the 2,000 subscribers. And because there's no plaque that you would get from Google or from YouTube for the 2,000 subscriber mark, I made my own little tweak and I actually put it on my in my fourth wall, like in my merch store. So you can find it. There is the 2K play pillow. And so if you reach this milestone yourself, you have the ability to purchase something for yourself to commemorate said event, like I have done myself. So I created a little graphic. It's similar to what you would get on the plaques, but it's in the form of a pillow that I'm going to be adding to the set in the background. And once I hit that, I actually ordered it for myself. So that's on the way. I should be here like on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm excited to get my 2K play pillow. And you can do the same if you've reached that milestone yourself. You can find it in my fourth wall store. So it's my own little commemoration to this event for myself. So 2,000 subscribers, and not one of them was purchased. You understand? No bots in the house. We've kept everything super clean. So it's 2,000 amazing community members here on the YouTube or Mr. Camera Junkie YouTube channel. So I'm really proud of that. I'm super excited, and we'll see what numbers we amass in the future. But as of right now, 2,000 Camera Junkies in this crew is 20 times over or something like that of what I thought I would get and what was my main goal of 100 subscribers on this channel. And the more that it grows, the more I stay in shock, because it's not lost on me at all the fact that it's 2,000 actual people like Kevin, like Paul, like Gretchen, like Sammy, like everybody here, like Jarrell, like Yolanda, like Parker, that are here week in and week out, that make this my favorite place to be, so thank you as always. And this is just an extension of my gratitude to every single one of you. So I can't wait to add that to my set, my 2K play pillow. And thank you, Paul, for putting my link there. Yolanda sent me a super chat. What's up? I gotta get that, like the boom sound effect on here as well. But she says, congrats for reaching 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so very much. Yes. So look at that. No, you guys make this my favorite place to be week in and week out. This community is what makes this my favorite spot to be. And this is why I don't see a end in sight, right? No end in the foreseeable future. I don't ever see me not doing this, because this is just so much fun. and somehow I'm fortunate enough to make money off of it that allows me to pay my bills in the same way, and that's all just another extension of what we're building here in this community. But with that being said, now let's get into a little bit of house cleaning. All right, first thing right off the bat, we have Doc Pop's pop filters. So if you're seeing my microphone and be like, yo, how is that microphone looking so fly? And not only does it look fly, it sounds fly. And the added bonus of it, it feels fly, because these things have like this velvety feeling to it. So it's very hard for me to keep my hands off my microphone. And if you get your own Doc Pops, you'll know exactly what I mean. But if you haven't done so already, this is the place to do it. Things are live, and I need to change this graphic now because it's no longer the final days of the pre-sale, like everything's going, so that's my bad. But I will make sure that I change this graphic for next week. But now they are at the regular price, but still, if you haven't done so, get your Doc Pops because they're absolutely worth it. Key thing is that he's got this special sale where he only charges a flat rate for shipping. So if you want to get more than one, then I would suggest to bundle them up so that then you only get one like $12 shipping fee, and they're local, so that you don't have to wait like long wait time. So everything is rocking and ready to go when it comes to getting your Doc Pops. I got my first batch, which if I can show you, I got some throwing over here. I got the orange, some blues, some purples, right? And I got some extras down here as well. But I realized that the ones that I got myself were basically just all the colors that match my set. And now I want, oh, Paul's correcting me, $14 flat rate shipping. So throwing that out there. Thank you, Paul. As always, that's why he's the master moderator, because he keeps everything in check. But yeah, I'm going to be making another order. I want to get some more pop of colors, some things that, you know, create some variation. So I'm going to end up getting pretty much the whole gamut of Doc Pop colors. I'm just realizing that now, you know, once I got these, I was like, yeah, I'm going to definitely want some more. So there we go. That's for the Doc Pops. And then if you're looking to level up in your Final Cut Pro skills, then my friend Mr. Rafael Levig actually created the Enhanced Editing for FCP or Final Cut Pro course. It's basically a condensed package where it'll get you from A to Z in about 2 weeks, so that if you want to know the ins and outs to get you going in Final Cut Pro, then this is the course that you should be looking into. And then that also brings me to Ecamm, which is the amazing program that I use to do everything that you see here. Bring comments on screen, change scenes, throw graphics on there, have the countdown, throw the music in the background, and throw it all out to YouTube Live at 4K. All done with this magic program that we call Ecamm Live. We should just call it Ecamm because it's a lot more than just a live streaming program. It does so much more, including like Zoom meetings, pre-recorded content, and just about everything, including producing or remote producing podcasts, which is something that I do on a weekly. Let me take this out here just to have the aesthetic. But yep, that's Ecamm Live. So hit the QR code right here, right? Hit the QR code or go to the link and check it out for yourself. It's a Mac only application, but if you don't have it, then that's a whole nother conversation that we could be having about the new Mac Mini. So that if you are thinking about going live, not only should you be using the best program, but if I told you that there's a $600 piece of hardware that's dedicated to getting you 4K live streaming, right, and it'll be ready to go out of the box, you'd be like, what piece of equipment is that? And I would just iterate a Mac Mini, especially these new M4s that are coming out. Blowing my mind at what's possible for $600 or $700 out of the box. M4, 16 gigs, like all the ray tracing shaders, like all the cores that you need for Ecamm Pro, so that you can start doing everything and anything that you want with this program. But That's not what today's episode's about, because that we can talk about next week, because I'm most likely going to be getting one of these new little Mac minis, especially just the base one. I'm going to replace my base M1 with the new base M4, and it's almost like a no-brainer. That's just the way that I see it. Just that I can mess around, because I don't want to put all my eggs into this mini basket, because I know that there's going to be like an M4 Max or Pro Studio that's going to be coming right around the corner. And that's the one where I think I'm going to be like, phew, that's going to be the next upgrade. So first I started with the M1 Mac Mini, and then I bought the Mac Studio as soon as it came out. And now that the M4 new generation or new form factor Mac Mini came out, I'm going to be getting that one as well, the base model. And then we'll see what happens with the Mac Studio, because just very excited for the things that are possible or coming just along the way. So yep, that's that on that subject. But today I'm going to be talking about this amazing camera that I just got my hands on. If we're just going to go to that overhead screen, boop. It is the Sony A7C Mark II. If we will have this one focus. Are we going to focus? Nikon. Oh, Nikon is failing me. It is like stuck on stupid. Yeah. What happened? Look at this. Hey, it happens live. We're getting a fuzzy feed out of this Nikon. Okay, so to tell you about this amazing camera that's looking fuzzy, let me see something here. Let me see if we could just switch this to that. Switch it back over. Okay. Did it wake it up? No, it didn't. It literally locked back into its same form. Interesting. All right, so you know what? Look, Jerry says the ZFC said not focusing on that song. You know what? Let's try to remix it. Jerry's like, you know what? Let's do it. So we're going to skip to the next song. Let's see what we got here. But you know what we're going to do on the fly? Before I get into this, I'm going to throw a little, like, squirrel moment. So let me see. Let me get back to Ecamm over here. Okay. So talking about that, right now I'm going to turn off the ZFC and I'm going to take off this lens, because this is the factory, or basically the kit lens for the ZFC. I'm thinking that this was a good idea, right? So that I wouldn't have any focusing issues, but glass before ass, right? I always say it. So I'm going to end up putting a good piece of glass on the ZFC and we'll go from there. But how am I going to do that? Because I don't have the luxury of just buying a whole, boatload of new lenses for these new cameras that I got. So I was able to find something that has changed the game for me and for my Nikon cameras. Check this out. It is the newer Z to E mount adapter. Now, I went online and I was looking for lenses for these cameras, and I was very tempted to buy one of my favorite lenses, which is the Sigma 16 millimeter for the APS-C, the f1.4. Absolutely amazing lens, and I've talked about it plenty on so many different occasions. But I was gonna buy this same lens for the Z mount. And then I ran across this adapter, which not only was less expensive than this lens, because I think this is still running for like $475, $450. This was actually $160. And this $160 is just pretty much the best investment. When I was moving from Canon to Sony, what made it possible for me was still being able to use all my Canon lenses on my Sony cameras, and I did that with my Metabones adapter. This basically is doing the same exact thing, but now kind of in reverse using my Sony lenses. And now all the lenses that I have for my E-mount are available for my Nikon cameras. So you could either throw this onto your camera and it then effectively becomes like a Sony mount Nikon camera, or you can just throw this on the lens that you have at your choice. So right now, I'm not going to use a 16. I'm just going to use a bit of a tighter framing for that. So I'm going to use my 30 millimeter from the Sigma series, the same contemporary series. It's the same f1.4. Right on the back from the Sony. Just going to line it up. So if we can see here, the red dot there and the dot on the lens, we're just going to line it up the same way till it clicks. And now this has effectively become a Z-mounted lens. So, you know, either way, whether you just put it on the lens or on the body itself, you're able to have all of these lenses at your disposal. So like my Tamron, my, you know, like my Zeiss lens, my Zeiss 55 millimeter, which is my favorite lens. Now I get to use it on my ZFC. I get to use it on my Z30 because of this adapter. So let's put it to the test. And now I'm just going to attach it to the Nikon. And now that that's on there, we're going to turn that on. And we're going to see if this lens, non-native with an adapter, ends up focusing better than the native kit lens, which there's a big possibility. So let's go ahead and check this out. Let's see if it's, or if we're in the same boat. Okay, let's go ahead and test it out. See what we're dealing with here. Oh my goodness. Oh, you can tell the difference is actually, yeah, focusing and is changing the field. So there we go. All right, now that we have a focusing lens, we can get to what I was going to be speaking about and not side questing into getting this camera to focus correctly. Okay. Aiden's asking me to power on his iPad now that it died. You're gonna have to wait, buddy. All right, I continue. So now I got my hands on, just like, was it yesterday or the day before? I think, yeah, it was Thursday. I got my hands on the Sony A7C Mark II. I went to visit Mr. Peter Gregg over there at the Christmas room. Had a lot of fun. We hung out with Aiden. We hung out for quite a bit of time. We recorded some content for him and his channel. And then on top of that, we did a swap. So Mr. Randy, who hangs out here in the chat, actually had sent over this camera over to Mr. Gregg, and I was in possession of his the Canon EOS R10 with some lenses. Now I had tried to do the best I could, and I actually created my first piece of content away from live streaming in a while, which was my first Mr. Camera Junkie camera review for beginners, or camera setup or camera guide. So yeah, that's actually what I called it, the Mr. Camera Junkie's guide to the Canon EOS R10. And I'm gonna be creating a series of these like simple, basic beginner videos for all the cameras that I get my hands on, like so, just so that I can have that like base. And the idea is basically how you have, you know, Dummy's Guide to this book or Dummy's Guide to that book. I'm gonna have a Mr. Camera Junkie's camera guide, you know, for beginners on all the cameras that I like, once again, that I get my hands on. So that's a new set of projects, and I'm trying to create content that's easier for me to create so that I can make more of it. And that's the idea. So with that being said, I did that with the R10, and once I was done with that, the deal was to actually switch hands, or, you know, kind of swap out these cameras. So now Mr. Peter Gregg has his hands on the Canon EOS R10. He's going to be creating content on that, and I started playing around with this device, and boy, has it really impressed me. It did overheat just one time. I was running it for various hours as far as like a live streaming setup goes. And but besides that, this thing is extremely, and I mean extremely impressive. Now, what are we looking at? We're looking at a 33 megapixel CMOS sensor. Look at that thing. It's very nice. If we get a nice view of it. There we go. So nice. 33 megapixel sensor, and I was speaking with Mr. Peter Gregg about it. He said that he was recording a video of some birds, and then he cropped in on the video, and even though it was video, not even photos but video, he was surprised with the crystal clarity that he was getting even with the crop. And I would have to concur, because I was just messing around with this camera and just snapping pictures on along the way while I was driving home, and just taking pictures of street signs along my route home, and being able to take a picture that was pretty wide and then zoom in and see how crystal clear it was, or and how sharp it was, even to like the detail. And it's very, very impressive because of the fact that like I did not see pixelation. Like if for those of you who are pixel peepers, right, like myself, once you zoom in, like you get to a point where you start seeing the pixelation, where the image itself is like degrading, so to speak, because you're getting down to the pixels themselves, of the millions of pixels. And I was able to zoom into these files, and they had a very film-esque vibe to them, because it was almost where I couldn't get to that point of like the pixelation, center the image on the camera. So now, just to give you a quick overview, it has one dial on top, right? And as you can see, it doesn't have too many features on that dial. So we have an auto, or an intelligent auto. You have the PASM, which is, you know, your professional. P is for professional, right? No, but your program auto, your aperture priority, your shutter priority, and your manual. And then you have 3 custom modes, and then you're back to intelligent auto, which may not seem like that much. For example, if I come over here and I show you like my A6600, you know, we have movie mode, then we have 2 custom modes. We have the, you know, PASM, and then the auto, but then we also have a scene, S&Q, which is slow and quick, and a variety of different, you know, like options inside of each one. I have a variety of different cameras that have a lot more features than just this simple, you know, like PASM and 3 custom modes, right? Where are all those other modes? And that's what I really like on this new A7C2, which is they actually separated them into kind of like categories within, or subcategories of the camera. So now, right now, it's in movie mode. So let me see if I can get in there. As you can see, it's in movie mode. The little dial is in the center, but if I were to flick it forward, it goes into photography mode. And that photography mode now has the sub features that we have here, and everything that I save in the photography mode is completely separate than for the videography mode or the cinema mode. And then if I were to switch it over here to the S&Q, that has its own set of like memory. So each like category, whether it's S&Q for cinema or videography, or the photography, will then have its own 3 custom modes. And if you're familiar with Sony cameras, you also know that there's more than just the 3 modes. That's all that's just on the internal camera. And if you actually need more than that, you have 4 more options of like custom modes that can be saved directly to the memory card of this camera. And actually, you know what, that's another feature that I like, because I just pointed here to like the base, right? to where the battery door is when I said memory card, because a lot of my cameras from Sony, right, all of these actually carry the memory card in the battery door, except this one does not. So this has an added feature that if you do have it mounted on a tripod and you need to change media, you have the battery or the SD card on the side giving you access. Even if it is, you know, mounted on a tripod, you don't have to take it off to do so. It has a flippy screen, which is, if you know me, it's good, but not my favorite. This camera would be like the best that if it had the flip up screen. And I know people will be like, oh, the microphones, this and that. I don't care. I don't care. The flip up screen is just so much better. And I reiterate that because even using this camera like a selfie camera just feels so much better closing that LCD back and just hitting record and looking at the lens, because the way that I'm holding it right now is just perched perfectly on either hand and makes it like super easy to switch from hand to hand, which is why I love the flip up screen like on the A6600, because you can get that information. And right now, if you're using, you know, Rode Wireless Go microphones, then this is ideal because you're still gonna get the audio. You'll be able to frame yourself by seeing yourself correctly, and you still have the ability to, you know, like use either hand. Another thing that I always talk about, which is why I prefer the flip up screen over the flip out screen, is that the flip out screens are a lot more vulnerable. This is like metal. The screen is not like so easily breakable. And for the reason why I mentioned that is because I've dropped these cameras in this form factor like that, and I'm thinking that they would just be completely busted and broken. And because of the metal frame and hinge, they last. And lasting makes a whole lot of sense when it comes to camera gear. And I've seen so many of the flip out screens cameras that take damage because they're so vulnerable just hanging out here in the elements, so to speak, that they end up breaking. Whether it was the A7S3 when it came out, I remember seeing Peter Lindgren making videos about like adjusting, you know, the hinge on it just because it was, you know, fragile. I've seen videos of Matty Hapoya having his flip out screen in his front seat and accelerating in his car, and as soon as this just hits the back side of the seat, busted screen. So that's why, even though it is functional, right, and it is, you know, favored by some people, is not my favorite. And that really has to do with also the way that I feel that this camera is so vulnerable, or any flip out screen camera is vulnerable in that manner. But I digress when it comes to that. Now, does have a big fat record button on top, so you have that there. And one of my favorite features is that it actually has like 3 dials. So it has the back dial here, the front dial, and this like multi-axis dial. And with Sony cameras, you have so much customization, or capability to customize this camera to your heart's content, that I've set that up exactly how I want it, where this is taking care of my ISO, the other one's taking care of my aperture or my f-stop, and the other one is my shutter speed or shutter angle, depending on which mode I'm at. It doesn't have the shutter angle like the FX30, but what it does have is that it has the variable flicker rate. So if you can adjust the variable or the shutter speed to any variation, just knowing the 180-degree rule, I just use it automatically. So I have the preset set that at 30 frames per second when I'm recording, or at 30p. I have it at 60 frames when I'm at, you know, 60 frames recording. I actually have it set to 119 or 120 instead of the 125, which is native to like these hybrid cameras. So I have that set up. And believe it or not, when I have one mode which is set to 120 frames per second recording, which is built into this bad boy, I have it also set up at double that, which is the 240 frames, and I have it set with that variable thing. It's not the exact shutter angle, but we're getting the same exact effect because I'm a nerd and I like doing all that stuff. So you have your function buttons. There's only like 2 custom buttons, you see, like C1 and C2, but pretty much everything is set up. I was thinking that I was gonna be missing more, but believe it or not, this the AF on button actually acts like the back button focus, which is normally what I'd be setting my custom buttons to. So it just works perfectly whether I'm in photo or in video. That just hitting that button is gonna get the camera to focus or refocus, like I was trying to get this Nikon to do with the other lens a little while ago. So it's very, very functional. And then, you know, just to give you the complete overview, you also have USB-C, HDMI mini, microphone in, and headphone out. So we have all the ports that you can want. And the only thing about this is that it's a full frame camera. And if you know about full frame cameras, you know that the glass on full frame cameras is pretty expensive. So I was looking to see what I'm gonna get my hands on to use with this camera, and to use it as like a, you know, like a vlog style camera, you're gonna need to get something pretty wide. So if you're familiar with Sony cameras, you know that they use one mount to rule them all. And the M mount, or the E mount, I'm sorry, the E mount, we can use APS-C lenses. So I decided to try to test out some of my APS-C lenses. And one of them that I tested out right away was my Rokinon 12 millimeters. So of course it's going to get really wide. Now, what happens when you attach an APS-C lens onto a full frame camera is that it actually goes into APS-C mode. So it goes into APS-C / Super 35 mode and kind of crops in on the image right from the sensor itself. So it'll take this 33 megapixel camera and reduce it, to a 14 megapixel camera. And it's gonna start using it just like if it was like an A6600, which I have here in my hands. But there's a lot of, like I said, customization that you can do with these cameras. So I went into the menus and I started turning things off. And I basically turned everything off. I turned stabilization, active stabilization, and then I also turned off the APS-C mode, so that even if I were to attach an APS-C lens, it would still act like a full frame camera. It wouldn't go into that APS-C mode and automatically crop, which is where my discovery led like to some experimentation and really got my head turning, because I was really surprised with how much coverage this lens is actually giving to the full frame sensor. Now, there is some vignetting into it, but like I said, it wasn't as bad as I thought, and we're still getting the equivalent of 12 millimeters on this lens, which is extremely wide when we're talking about full frame, removing the crop factor. For example, the crop factor on Sony cameras is 1.5, meaning 12 millimeters. We would cut that number in half, meaning 6, and then add that number to the same exact focal length, which is 12. So 6 and 12 means 18. So on an APS-C camera like my A6600, this 12 millimeter acts like a full frame 18 millimeter, but on a full frame camera, 12 millimeters is equivalent to 12 millimeters, even if it's on an APS-C lens. But you get some vignetting, and that's when my mind started turning just the same. And I actually then started turning on the stabilization and active stabilization, still in full frame mode, which what that does is that it crops in just a bit, especially in the active digital stabilization. And what it does is that that little bit of vignetting that was being caused by the APS-C lens not being able to cover the entirety of the sensor now is basically removed completely, and the vignetting that I was seeing before is non-existent. So I was able to get now an actively stabilized lens at 12 millimeters because I'm paying APS-C prices, and it's just damn near covering the entirety of this full frame sensor. Now, to demonstrate this to you, I'm going to now connect this camera to my setup, you know, as fast as possible, because that was the other thing that really impressed me about this camera as well, is that all of the new Sony cameras, ever since the ZV line and all of their newer cameras, we can connect them directly via USB-C and use them as a webcam. But like my ZV-1F, which I might get into the story later on, but I'll be waiting to, at least till next week. But that one is no longer part of the Camera Junkie repertoire. That one has moved along. So we no longer have the Sony ZV-1F. And I was looking to, you know, be replacing my overhead camera with the ZFC. But I digress. That, oh, where was I going with this? There's so many threads. I'm trying to keep them all together. Well, anyways, I don't know why exactly what I was talking about. Oh yeah, why I was impressed with this camera. Look at me, how quickly I can scroll that way. All right, know that since the ZV line and all these cameras that I was saying, including the ZV-1F, the ZV, all of the ZV lines, the ZV E10, right? All of these new cameras, I'm trying to lose track while I'm trying to gain it. Okay, keep it together. They all connect via USB-C as webcams, but the ZV-1F was limited to 720p because that was the max that it can go. And then the next iteration of the webcam feature was now getting 1080, right? But I believe the 1080 was like only at 15 frames per second. Then they had 1080 on lock, and then they had 4K, but 4K was suffering with something like that at just 14 or 16 frames per second. So, you know, it was very choppy, even though it was like a high quality image. And I am glad to say that this iteration right here allows you to use this camera as a webcam at 4K 30 with just a USB-C cable. And then you don't need a dummy battery because the USB-C cable is not only giving you the video feed, but it's giving you the audio feed, and it's charging up the camera at the same time. And that's when using it in that manner was when I came across the overheating issue. But you know me, I have that Ulanzi fan, and I'm going to be throwing that Ulanzi fan on the back of this bad boy, and I think that's going to handle all of its overheating issues, which is pretty nuts to think that you can get 4K 30. And the thing is, I was comparing it to what we're seeing right now with the cam links, and I'm hella impressed, like hella impressed. So without further ado, I'm just gonna, you know, like walk you through it, but I'm gonna be connecting this right now via USB-C. Now the USB-C is that 40 gigabytes per second, so it's gonna have to be a high quality or high speed USB-C. If you have a lesser quality, it will also let you know that you can't transmit at that, and it will dumb down the signal to 720, you know, if necessary. But because of the proper cable, we're gonna get the full 4K, and I'm gonna show you how simple it is to connect this to Ecamm. All right, let me get something to drink here. Okay. So what am I going to do? Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect the Sigma, because the Sigma basically did the same thing. I always joke that the Sigma 16 millimeter APS-C is the size of a full frame lens, and it pretty much covers the full frame even without the active stabilization. So I'm going to start with this one to show you exactly what it looks like full frame 4K, no crop, no nothing, and we'll go through all the modes. All right. So right now, this is what we're looking at. Go ahead and flip this open. And let me give you a bit of behind the scenes look here. All right. This is my magnet mount here. That's my big magnet there. And I don't know if we can see it. That's just basically like a cold shoe mount on the top. Trying to see if to give you the best angle to see it. We'll see. Okay, so we'll lock that in. We'll lock that in as well. And then we'll lock that in. So hopefully that's a good illustration so you can see it's locked into the cold shoe on a rod with magnets. And now I'm just gonna stick this to the top here. My metal cage. This will be a better thing if you can see it, right? So this is my main, not that one. Hello. This is my main camera. This is the one that you're seeing. And now this is the A7C right next to it. Turn this bad boy on. Check out my framing. Freaking nuts, man. That's photo, that's video. Oh, that's actually this, man, that's clipping. It's so wide, it's actually catching this right here. We're just gonna run with it. Definitely needs to kick up the ISO. Okay, so right now I have it set 1.4. Hold on. I messed up the frame rate. Okay, so right now this is going to be 4K 30. 4K 30. And we're just going to connect it via USB-C on the fly. As you can see there, as soon as I connected to the USB-C, it just asked me to go into live streaming mode. I hit OK, right? And it's telling me that it already started and we're connected at 4K 30 directly to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my guest cam. Hold on, I'm going to go to preview mode. I'm going to go to my guest cam and I'm going to change this to that camera as soon as I find it. Oh wow, it's super bright. Yeah, that's super bright. So that's there. Let's stop this down. That's so wide. This is crazy. Okay, so now what you guys are about to see, right? What you guys are going to see right now. Hold on, go back to live mode. Yes. What you guys are about to see is the A7C Mark II with the Sigma 16mm at 16mm. Check that out. Look at how, like, this is what I was telling you before. This is my actual teleprompter. Like, that's how wide it is. And it's getting everything. You're actually seeing both lights. That's how nuts this is. You're seeing my main key light and my hair light in the same shot. This is so freaking nuts. So now you can see, like right here, right around the edge, that's the vignetting that we're getting. But this is usable. This is like so usable. So this is with no crop. Now I'm gonna switch it to the stabilization with the crop. Okay, so you see it crops in a little bit, and now we've lost the vignetting. We've absolutely lost the vignetting. Let me go ahead and stop this down again, because I have this stopped down what to 3.5. Yeah, this is freaking nuts. Now I can't see your comments right now. My teleprompter's off, but look at how wide this is. So now this is with active stabilization. So if I were to hold this handheld like this, this is how like close it is. Let me give you an example. Let me go back to the behind the scenes cam, right? Look at how close I am, right? So I'm just holding it this close, right? So within arm's distance, like literally like just within 1.5 feet of my face, and when I go to this camera, that's the shot that we're getting out of like 1.5 feet. And if I move backwards, it's, and now the other thing is, look at how crystal clear the image from this camera is. This is USB-C. And I have it like stopped down to f2.8. This is an f1.4 lens. This is damn near like see in the dark. So see, we put that there, right? And we're still cropping in there, right? But let me actually stopping, or I'm bringing down the ISO, right, to darken it up. And now we're going to open up the aperture all the way to f1.4 so we can get the most blur in the backgrounds. And this is stupid good. This is stupid good. Like I was just talking with Doc Rock about like leaving my cam links and going to the Cam Link quad thing with the whole adapter so that I can get like 4K feeds directly and so on and so forth. But this really got me thinking. I'm like, do I really need that? Because just 2 USB-C cables, the FX30 and this A7C2, and it's like ready to rock and roll at 4K 30 with multiple angles. And not have to carry extra devices like cam links, or like we speak in this game, you know, an extra point of failure, right? Which is what the cam links is. If they go bad on you, then you have to scramble. But now you can get this quality image directly from the camera. And this is like, man, so good. So now we're gonna switch it up, because I believe this was now this is 4K 60. This is 4K 60 and 1080 120. Like you can definitely see the difference in the like shutter, you know, and like the crispiness of it. But this is 1080 120. All like, it's so good. It's so good. Like it's ridiculous. Man. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing, and now I'm gonna switch to the even wider or 12 millimeter f2. Right, so you know what? Let me go to the other scene so I can shut this off. Or actually, behind the scenes. So this is the Rockin' On 12 millimeter. Craziness. Okay. So let's go back to this guest camera. Oop. So now this is, as you can see, this is 4K 30, no crop, no nothing. And this is the vignetting. This is getting really hard vignetting off of the 12. But once again, showing you even more of how much you're getting the entirety of this light. My roof, you're seeing the ZFC. Okay, you're seeing all my games in the background, and this is blocking like half of it, because once again we take it, then you can see my light. You can even see this is nuts. You can see my second computer over here. It's just amazing. So as you can see, this has a little bit of like more vignetting, but if we want to use this once again handheld, this is now 4K with the, oh, did I hit it the right way? No, hit it the wrong way. This is the 4K with the active stabilization. And once again, we're seeing just slight vignetting. That honestly, like the vignetting that we're getting here, this is something that I would probably just use, right? Record like this and then crop in post, just so that I can get the best, you know, like the best framing possible. But this allows you to get everything in the shot. Like you can see the dock pops over here. This is nuts. You're seeing everything. You're seeing like, this is the all-in-one behind the scenes and front scenes cam because of how wide it is. And you can see how wide 12 millimeters really, really is. And this is nuts. So now we crop in just a little bit more. Oop. No, actually, no, that was as much cropping as we get. Yeah. Freaking nuts. This craziness how wide this is. So that's like it in a nutshell. The A7C2, this is not correct information. I'm just seeing that now. Let's shut that off. If I can unlock it. Boop. Turn that off. So yeah. Craziness of how wide this is, and using APS-C lenses on a full frame camera and getting these results is pretty, like, it's pretty nuts, especially when like full frame lenses, a full frame 12 millimeter lens is gonna be buku bucks. You're looking at $1,400 to $1,600. And look, you could even see Aiden pulling on me over here, because you're in the usually you never see him down here. Hey, he's all up in the camera today. Yes, sir. What do you want? Okay, it's almost 11, so we're gonna finish the stream strong. Okay, buddy? All right, let Dad finish. But let's go back to the main shot and see exactly where I left you guys. Oh, I see Kathy snuck in here. Kombucha in here as well. All right. Yeah, Kevin was saying it looks like it was stuck in manual focus. Yeah. No, and autofocus was not off. Just to give it, like, changing the lens fixed it. Let me see what Kevin says here. It says Nikon not gonna show off the Sony. He always joked that Nikon's focus was like going through a dirty Ziploc bag when Lem was on regular. Oh, you went back to Lem drops, bro. Hey, Scott, how are you doing, sir? Welcome, welcome, as always. Says the dial setup is really nice. I think so. I found it very, very functional. And I'm really enjoying this camera. You know me, I like the rangefinder style cameras. That's why I love the A6600 and the A6000 series. I have the A6100 over there being my B shot, team flip up all day. That's why I bought the 6600, because once the 6700 came out with the side flip screen, I was just like, okay, that's going to be the last one with the flip up screen. So I got to get it now. and I pulled the trigger on it. Been very happy with it. But when it comes to like the autofocus features, like, you know, the animal and eye autofocus, focus mapping, all the bells and whistles, man, this camera, this A7C2 has them all. Like, the only thing that I think it's literally missing is the shutter angle, right? Which it might not come to it because it's not a cinema camera or in the line of the FX series, but the variable shutter for the flicker rate handles that just the same way, at least it does for me, so that when I'm in my video modes, I'm still able to get the correct shutter speed that I want depending on my frame rate. So very, very happy with that. Kombucha is here, says flip up screen, flip out because no one can tell you're looking at yourself in the screen. Well, that's another thing. Yeah, like flip out screens, you could always tell when somebody's just looking and speaking at themselves. Flip up screens are usually a little bit better, even though I can tell just the same way. I'm anal retentive when it comes to that stuff. Like, I watch his content all the time, but Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, is constantly looking at the screen above his red Komodo X or whatever it is that he's using. You understand? He's got a big old screen on top as his reference monitor, and he's constantly looking at it just the same way. So the only time that I'm kind of like looking up and off to the sides is like when like I'm doing it naturally, where I'm like recalling a memory, like, oh, what was I doing there? Or like, oh, was I doing that? Most of the time, I actually, like right now, I prefer my monitor because it has a crosshair, right? It has a little X which allows me to know where the monitor is, and that's always what I'm looking at. Or not the monitor, excuse me, the lenses, and that's what I'm always looking at. It I do come from, you know, like traditional camera background. I was the guy who was in the morning announcements, and before teleprompters were a viable thing for everyday use, when you wanted to record, you got used to looking at the lens, and that's kind of like my background. So I think I tend to work better when I'm just looking at a lens comparative to a teleprompter. But, you know, to each his own. That's me because I grew up with this stuff. I love it. Kevin says Tamron glass has been amazing that I've had my hands on. Likewise, I borrowed Doc Rock's. It was the 28 to 75, so it wasn't the 24 to 70 because Tamron doesn't make that one. It's the 28 millimeter to 75 millimeter f2.8 for their full frame lens. And I used my A7R2, which is what we're looking at right now, and was in Amesbury during that car show, and I took a bunch of photos, and I was so blown away and extremely happy with the final results of that. The other one that I got my hands on is recently this other Tamron. This is the APS-C 17 to 70, so it's a 25 millimeter to 105 millimeter equivalent f2.8, you know, great lens, variable stabilization built in, and this thing rocked its socks off at Creator Camp. I put it on the FX30 and didn't look back. That thing just worked like a charm, and I was very, very happy once again with the final results of that lens. Kathy's in the house saying what's up to the crew. Just so wide and so crispy, right, man? Look, like I kind of feel like even right now this cam link is just a bit choppier than the image that I'm getting from this USB-C. That's why it's got me thinking thoughts, bro. It's got me thinking thoughts. I'm over here like, man, like that. It looks so nice. And another thing is Jeremy, Rainy Cajun, he's always mentioned that whenever I hang up, you know, just the same way the FX30 and using it via USB-C, that it just looks so crisp. And the biggest difference is this is 8-bit color and that's 10-bit color. So because it's set up that way, it makes such a huge difference in that like level of detail and the crispness that you're getting from the image and the colors. There's a different kind of fly in the wall view, right? Like I wasn't even expecting it being that wide, that I was just like genuinely shocked. I'm like, yo, it's got both lights. It's got my front and my back, and they're literally like across from each other, and I got the fill here. Like, that is craziness. You can tell, right? KO says I'm sounding like a kid in a candy store. You know it, man. You know it. Okay, but it is that time. We're going to be closing things out, so you know what time it is. And that is time for Cities God. Channels that I think you should go and watch. So let me go ahead and pull this out of the back. Where's my mouse? All right. Here we are. Ecamm. There we go. When you do everything yourself, sometimes it just takes an extra second. Bam. So we're going to go from here. Then we're going to hit there. And there we go. All other windows are off. But this is Mr. Sam Holland. So what I did is that I have so many creators that I haven't highlighted. I said, today I'm going to be talking about the A7C2. So then I typed that in, and this was the first creator that came up on my list, right, with a video on this subject matter. So I was like, hey, you know what? I haven't mentioned him before. So if you've never heard of him, let me be the first to introduce you to Mr. Sam Holland. He's a content creator, he's a videographer, and he's someone who's here to help you upgrade your skills. Like I always mention, he's a content creator's creator, so to speak, and he's someone that you can learn a lot from. He's got a variety of different videos on a variety of different subjects, all ranging from, you know, monitors to cameras, lenses, filters, all the camera junkie stuff that we're always speaking about. So if you haven't heard of him before, let me be the first to introduce you to Mr. Sam Holland, this week's Cities Gaw, channels that I think you should go and watch. And that's it, man. Guys, we have done it. It's another one in the books. This has been episode 205. And if you're wondering, 205, what does that mean? That means we've done this same exact show 205 times. But not only 205 times, 205 consecutive times, weekly, every single Saturday, right here on the Mr. Camera Junkie YouTube channel. So you can mark it on your calendars, set the reminders so that you know not to miss the next episode of Mr. Camera Junkie Live, which will be happening next Saturday, which I believe is the 9th of November, right here, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, week in and week out. And we're inching ever so closely to episode 208, which will be celebrating 4, you heard that correctly, but 4 consecutive years of the Camera Junkie live stream. So Mr. Camera Junkie live stream every single week. And I gotta thank you all, as always, for making this my favorite place to be. Sly Reader is in the house, sneaking in, saying she loves loving my enthusiasm for the new gear. Hey everyone, thank you as always. I'm resetting my calendar for your shows to be on Tuesday, because I keep getting reminders on on Fridays, and I'm like, I gotta switch the calendar. So I shouldn't miss any of your live streams from here on out. Gretchen says, love how excited you get over lenses. Oh yeah, and I am gonna be getting my hands on another lens to test out on this, a full frame lens, but I'm really surprised in these APS-C lenses, right? And being able to just not go by the norm, right? And just saying like, oh, it's an APS-C lens, so you can't use it on a full frame camera. I'm like, you know what? With all the cropping in on the, active stabilization and stuff like that, man, you're able to use this amazing f1.4 lens on a full frame camera. So you're getting an f1.4, like aperture, and you're getting like the best of like the full frame sensor. It's almost like being able to record in the dark, right? Like you're seeing in the dark. So I'm really excited to see exactly the quality. Oh, and then that's not even me touching into the fact that these cameras have dual base ISOs. So the first native ISO is at 800. that's a pretty good like base, right? Because you're gonna get the cleanest image and the most dynamic range at ISO 800. Like that's great, especially like if we're saying we want a low light camera. And the next one up is 3200. So at 3200 it kind of resets. Bam. Like this is craziness. So it's like a night vision camera, and I'm just super excited. The quality in photos are like so on point because I was able to take some photos of Mr. Peter Gregg while we were hanging out. He took some photos of me. I already processed one, and I'm just like really, really, really impressed with the sensor, the quality, the image, everything so far. It's using the Z battery, so it's got battery life for days. Yeah, I'm really finding something hard to say that I dislike from this camera. Like it has a viewfinder, so it already has that leg up on the, like on the FX series and the Z1 series, the Z series, the ZV series, so to speak, because the ZV-E1, even though great full frame camera and everything like that, doesn't have a viewfinder, and for me personally, that hurts. I just love a viewfinder. It's just it's just natural to me with the camera, whether it's photography or video, and because this has it, it's just like it's hitting, it's checking all the boxes, it's hitting all the buttons. It's really, really impressed me. I'm really, really impressed with this. And having this camera with the FX30, it's like a pretty decent combination. So yeah, I can't wait to make some more content about it. One thing that I'm going to be doing very soon is just try to make another same of these simple camera reviews like I did for the EOS R10 on this camera and the rest of the cameras that I have in my, in my repertoire here, and start building that little like library of Mr. Camera Junkie quick guides for cameras. So that's what I'm getting into, and if you want to see more of that and more of these live streams, please be sure to subscribe. It's also free, doesn't cost you a thing, but it also shows YouTube that we're doing good. And like I mentioned before, we just passed that 2,000 subscriber mark. I'll be getting my pillow soon, so I'm excited for that. And with that being said, everyone, thank you as always for making this the place where I want to be week in and week out. I can't wait to do episode 206 right here, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces as we hang out here together. So take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you here next time. Talk to you.